Hey friends, how's it going? My name is Gabby, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be starting on a new reading vlog. I'm going to be reading some books that I have been highly anticipating, which will include romantic comedy, which is a romance that I've been super eager to get my hands on. I'm also finally going to be reading One of Us is Lying, which is a young adult thriller that, yes, this one has been out for a couple of years, but most recently, I've just been getting this book recommended to me a lot, and it's something that I'm really curious about, so I'm going to be reading this one, as well as a few other things. I don't know, anything can happen in this reading vlog. I'm not really setting myself onto any kind of strict guidelines, so anything can really happen. I'm hoping to read about 3 or 4 books for this vlog, but before we do jump into the vlog, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to Every Plate for sponsoring today's video. Every Plate is America's best value meal kit company, so if you're looking to save some money on food expenses this spring, then Every Plate is definitely for you. Every Plate is 25% cheaper than grocery shopping with no hidden fees, and it's really nice because I feel like in comparison to grocery shopping, you know, you're getting these items pre-proportioned so that you have exactly the amount of stuff that you need to make these meals so that there's a lot less food waste. Like, nothing will go to waste. You have exactly what you need. You can count on Every Plate to make your meal times so much easier without compromising on the quality. Instead of spending money on takeout, you can make a quick and easy meal at home. Most of their meals only take about 20 to 30 minutes to make, which is super quick, and their meals are 50% cheaper than the average takeout meal. All of their ingredients are super high quality, and they make it so easy to learn how to make these meals with the step-by-step instructions, because I'm not much of a cook myself, but with Every Plate, I always feel like it's so simple, it's so easy to understand, and I'm able to make it so quick. I also love how you can customize the different meals, because if you would rather swap out a different protein for a different protein, you can do that, or swap out a certain veggie for a different veggie if there's one that you're not really sure about. I love that you can customize these meals to your liking. I recently just made these Cajun chicken sandwiches for the first time, and oh my goodness, these were so freaking good. The Cajun was just the perfect amount of kick, you know, it was just a little bit spicy, but in the best way. And this one gets served with some, you know, potatoes on the side. And it was so delicious. It was like the first chicken sandwich that I've ever had from Every Plate, and it was freaking fantastic. So you can get started with Every Plate for just $1.49 per meal when you go to everyplate.com and you use my code gabbyreads149. Isn't that such an amazing deal? When you go to everyplate.com, you use my code gabbyreads149, and you can start by getting your first meals for just $1.49 each. And that is up to $110 in value, which is absolutely incredible. Thank you so much to Every Plate for sponsoring today's video, and now let's get into the reading vlog, shall we? I think I'm going to start with romantic comedy, so let's get to it!
All these years, you've been mine. It wasn't easy, but we worked it out. All those tears, ups and downs.
Hi.
I swear it's been the best ride of my life.
Hi.
Look at where we are now, baby. Only blue skies ahead.
Hello, how's it going? What's going on? I wanted to update because I have started on romantic comedy. And this is a, you know, it's obviously a romantic comedy. It's a romance book that I've been very excited to read because I've been hearing such great things about this one. And this story, all I knew about it going into it was that we were going to follow this woman who's a, you know, comedy writer. She works on a show that's called The Night Owls, that's called T&O, and it's very, very similar to like SNL, like Saturday Night Live vibes. And she's a sketch writer for the show. And then this is a romance between her and this guy who's a pop star who's going to be like hosting this show. And he's going to be performing and hosting it and doing a bunch of sketches like with their crew. It's basically SNL. Like, I know they can't actually say, I think, that it's SNL, but it's basically SNL. But it's so fun. I don't know, it reminds me of when I read Amy Poehler's memoir back in the day. And I feel like I've read a few people's memoirs who have actually been on SNL. Amy Poehler's the only one that comes to mind, but I feel like I've also read a few other memoirs about people who actually worked on SNL, and I've always been really fascinated by, you know, like the behind the scenes of a TV show on working on something like SNL, you know, like the last minute planning when it comes to like different sketches or like the different ideas people have and how they just like bounce off each other, and just working in a situation like that where you're working with a bunch of other comedians, like it's just such a cool sounding work environment. And so I really, really love the vibe of this book. I love being in the head of someone who's like a sketch writer and just kind of like hearing her ideas and, you know, hearing about her experiences. It's interesting too because she's 36 years old in this book, and then he is also 36, and he, you know, he used to be in a boy band when he was a lot younger, and now he's at a point in his life where he's been releasing a lot of solo music, and he's still doing really well as like a solo pop star now, and he's like releasing his 10th album, and you know, like he's just been through a lot of things. And this story's just been so cute so far. Like, they have really great chemistry. I was kind of worried about the fact that I was like, oh my god, if he's like a pop star, I thought maybe he would like come across as like a bit of a douchebag. But honestly, so far, they're both really cute. I actually really like both of their characters a lot. I like that, I don't know, the way that she talks to him, she's just like very relatable with a lot of her like fears of him being as famous as he is. You know, like she has a lot of the same concerns, I guess, that I did, like, oh, that he's gonna be like a complete douche, or that he's gonna seem really famous. I don't know, so far I'm really liking this a lot. In my head, I've been picturing this main protagonist girl as Emma Stone. I don't know why, but she's just giving me Emma Stone vibes, and honestly, anytime there's a girl that like deals with comedy and I get to picture somebody in my head, it's always Emma Stone, because I just freaking love Emma Stone. And so in my head, this is like a La La Land casting in my head, because I'm like, okay, Emma Stone, and then if Ryan Gosling had like been a pop star instead of an actor, kind of like, you know, Sebastian from La La Land vibes. Like, that's what I'm fan casting in my head. But yeah, it's been really cute so far. I've been doing Patreon reading sprints this afternoon. I think I'm doing my last sprint right now, but I have already read, you know, like 115 pages just in the last like 2 sprints, because this book is absolutely flying. Like, it is so freaking cute. I do have the audiobook from my library as well, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to pick it up right away, because I had the audiobook. So I'm like, what excuse do I have to not read this immediately? Because it's like one of my more anticipated romances of this whole year. So I'm so happy about it. I'm so happy that it's going well. And I'm getting to a point in the book right now where things are feeling like they're about to change, you know, because so far the whole thing has been about like him hosting this week at SNL, and like the show's happening and like building up to the show. And so now I feel like I'm at a point where things might really start to change in the book, or the romance might start to develop even more, because I'm appreciating how much of a slow burn it is, you know, like they have not even really said any romantic anything towards each other. Like, they don't even know if they're feeling that way about each other at this point. And so I like that it feels like a slow burn. I don't know, like I'm just excited to see what happens between these two. So I'm gonna continue reading this. I think I'm only doing one more reading sprint, and then after that, I think me and my sister are gonna make something for dinner, and then we're probably gonna be watching that new show on Netflix called Beef. I've just been hearing so much about this, you know, and it has my boy Steven in it, which is part of the reason that I really want to watch it. You know, he's from The Walking Dead and from the movie Nope. Like, I adore this man, Steven. So I think we're gonna watch Beef later, and then I might get back to this a little later tonight.
I get why you left. Small-minded people sure know how to drink. I came to the party, I laughed at the jokes you made. I wish that I hadn't, 'cause now the joke's on me. I didn't come here just so I could watch you make a mess. I didn't come here to ugly cry in my favorite dress. So what the hell were you thinking then when you kissed your lips? Now I'm kinda glad you did, 'cause now you adore me, adore me. Go ahead now, adore me, adore me. Little did I know she wanted you alone.
Hello, hi, it's the next morning, and I wanted to update you because last night, Rachel and I, we did end up watching 4 episodes of that show Beef that's on Netflix, the new one, and it is so freaking good. It is so entertaining. It has like the most like dark humor, which is like my favorite kind of humor, but then it also has some really great like drama. Like the twists in the show so far have been really great, and we're both just like absolutely loving it. So we're probably gonna end up watching more of that tonight. But I've still been listening to the audiobook for romantic comedy pretty much all morning. I just got out of Target because I just drove down here to Target because I wanted to pick up some like birthday things for my mom, because her birthday's coming up pretty soon. You know, my mom's an Aries, and while I was in Target, Target, I was able to finish listening to this one on audio because this audiobook was super quick. It was like a really quick read. And this book, I have, you know, mixed feelings about the ending of this book because as much as I would have loved to have given this book 5 stars, there were definitely some things about this book that just bothered me a little bit. I don't know, just after reading the first part of this book, I probably would have given this book 5 stars, but then part 2 of this book, or chapter 2, I guess I should say, it's kind of weird because it ends up turning into, like, the entire part of that book ends up becoming, like, email exchanges, and so I was kind of like, oh, okay, it was like, I don't know, it was kind of abrupt after being, like, 130 pages into the book to just go to, like, email exchanges for, like, almost 80 pages worth of just emails, and then also, not only was it, like, the email exchanges that made this book kind of harder to read at times, but then it was also because some of this book actually took place during the pandemic, and there were like characters in this book that were getting COVID, and it was like really hard on them, and it was just, I don't know, the tone of it felt very like not romantic comedy at that point. It just felt a lot more like serious than I was expecting, and I just think, I don't know, like using COVID in this book was just kind of unexpected and just not really the vibe that I was hoping for, I guess, with this. Like, I don't think there was a part of this book that needed to take place in the year of 2020, and to see these characters kind of go through the pandemic, like, I don't know if it really did anything for me, like if it was really supposed to like add anything to the overall story. Like, I really could have done without it. But I think for sure, you know, my favorite aspects about this book are, you know, Noah, the love interest, the guy who's like the pop star. He's just a really cool character. I just really enjoyed reading about him, and I thought he was so, you know, like humble and like down to earth and just like a really deep person for being like as famous of a pop star as he was. I feel like the main protagonist, she did drive me a little bit crazy at times with her insecurities, especially like some of their conversations in like the later part of this book. I was just like, dude, why is she still talking like this, you know? And it's like, I get it in some ways because the whole point of this book is how she's like so alarmed at the fact that this beautiful man who's like a pop star and he's so famous could love someone as simplistic, and like she's just a writer, she's just a TV writer, and she feels very insecure because of those things. And in a way, it's like, I get it, but still, like later on in the book, I'm like, why are you still saying these things, you know? But I really did love the you know, SNL kind of vibes of this story, and it was really cool because the author even said at the very end of this book that obviously this book was very highly inspired by SNL, so I'm glad that she actually mentioned it by name, because I was like, this is so inspired by SNL. But it was just really cool to read something that felt so inspired by SNL, and it felt so similar in like a really fun way. And I also just, I really did love their banter. I loved their interactions. I love the way they talk to each other. Like, it was just really cute to read about them, even though sometimes she would drive me a little bit nuts. I feel like overall I'm probably gonna end up giving this 4 stars, even though it's kind of a bummer because I felt like this could have been a 5-star read, but 4 stars is still a really great rating. Obviously, I had a really good time reading this book. Anyways, I think I'm in the mood for a thriller next. Start listening to You Shouldn't Have Come Here by Geneva Rose. And this one is an audiobook that I just got from Libro. They had it as an ALC this month, and this is one that I've been so curious to read because it's like a thriller and it involves like an Airbnb. I can't remember exactly what it's about, but I think I'm gonna start listening to this one on audio and just kind of try to have a chill afternoon. It's been about 24 hours since the last time that I updated this vlog, because yesterday after I was at Target, I was just kind of like going around doing a whole bunch of different errands yesterday. Like, I went to Trader Joe's, I stopped at Barnes & Noble just to like browse around, but yesterday I was listening to the audiobook for You Shouldn't Have Come Here almost all day yesterday, like all afternoon. I got home, me and Rachel got Burger King for dinner, which we haven't had Burger King in like so freaking long, but they give out those coupons where it's just like really freaking cheap. Like, we got 2 chicken sandwiches and 2 fries for $6.99. Like, what the heck? You literally cannot beat that. So we ended up getting Burger King for dinner, and then I was listening to this audiobook a little bit more, and then I was also, you know, like playing guitar later last night and just working on a bunch of other things. But my point is that it's been 24 hours of me reading this book and me not updating you once because I just finished listening to the audiobook right now. And oh god, you know, sadly, I think I'm torn between giving this like 1 or 2 stars, but I think I'm leaning more towards 1 star. You know, I think I went into this book with like the wrong expectation, first of all, because all I knew about this book was that it was going to be about this girl who's going to be like staying at an Airbnb that's like in the middle of nowhere, right? But it's weird because I feel like what the premise of the book doesn't tell you is that he's still gonna be like living on the property, like the dude that's the owner, because like the whole point of this book is that she thinks like the owner is kind of creepy, and then she doesn't have any like cell phone service while she's out there because it's like in the middle of nowhere in Wyoming, and it just doesn't tell you in the premise of the book that he's gonna be living in the Airbnb with her. I don't know if it's like a situation where she only rented out like a room of his place or something like that, but I thought immediately that was kind of odd. I was like, oh, why wouldn't it say that like he's gonna be living there with her? So kind of right off the bat, I was like, okay, this is weird. This isn't really what I was expecting it to be. But then also, oh my gosh, I feel like this book just reads so much more like a romance. And I feel like the premise is also kind of misleading because from what I got from the premise, I thought that he was gonna be like creepy and I thought that she was gonna be like afraid of him. But no, it's like she thinks he's so fucking hot. And it's like one of those situations where he is giving her every single red flag like under the fucking sun. And she's like, but he's hot though. So she wants to get with him and she doesn't care. And it was just so like cringy. Oh my gosh, it was like that one May Cobb book, not the one that I liked, but the one that's like My Summer Darlings or whatever that one was called, where it's like this man is very obviously like a walking red flag, but like women just want to get their panties off with him for some reason. You know, at the end of the day, I really just think it's this author that is not for me. Like I just really do not vibe with her writing. I didn't realize that this was actually the same author as that other book called One of Us is Dead, which honestly makes sense now that I'm thinking about it, because that was a book that I read last year, I think, and I DNF'd it and I gave it 2 stars, and I like was not a big fan of that one either. So I think if I had realized that that was the same author, then I would not have been as excited about this one, because I just feel like she writes her characters in the most like over-the-top, dramatic, unrealistic, cheesy kind of life as a reality show kind of way. I don't even know how to explain what I'm trying to say, but her characters just feel very cringy, and it honestly reads a lot more like a romance than a thriller in my opinion, because so much of this book is focused on her being like, oh, well, he's lying to me about this, so like what else could he be lying about? But she's like interested in him romantically, and so she's not really thinking in terms of like, you know, could he be like a killer or something, you know? Of course, there's all these little like mysteries thrown into this book throughout it, right? Like his last girlfriend is dead and you're trying to figure out like why she died or like what could have happened to her, and then there's all this mystery of like what's going on with his brother and what could his brother have done. But it was all just very boring. Like any of the mysterious aspects of the story, I guess I just didn't care enough about them because I didn't care so much about these characters, and because it really just felt like this book was mostly a romantic book. It was more like romantic suspense, if anything, than like a mystery or thriller. Like I just did not like the vibe of this one. Honestly, it's such a bummer, you know, because I never like to, you know, come on camera and say that I'm giving a book 1 star and just absolutely roast it. I try to find the good in everything that I read, but honestly with this one I struggle to, and I know you're probably wondering why didn't I just DNF it if I was having such a shit time reading it. But honestly, it's because of this book's like readability. It's so easy to just sit there and listen to this, even though, oh my gosh, at the end I was trying not to like cringe and like roll my eyes so hard at every single thing that was happening. I was like skipping some scenes because I was like, this is literally fucking pointless. Like, what is going on? It was just not a great time, you know, and I'm glad that I'm done with it. And I still didn't really like the end. I know some people said that, oh, the end is so twisty, but like, really though, is it? Like, I don't know. I feel like I saw that coming from a mile away. So like, wow, I don't know. That really sucks. I don't think I'm gonna be reading this author's books in the future because I've clearly, like, we just do not vibe. I don't know. If I give one of her books 2 stars and then another book 1 star, I feel like that's a pretty good indicator to me that I should like stop picking up her books, because clearly I'm just not the right audience for her. Hello. So I did want to update because I have started on my next read, which is One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus. And this is one that, I was a little bit nervous jumping into this because it is a young adult thriller, but it's one that came out, I want to say this came out in like 2018, maybe 2017, like it's been a couple of years, and this is one that I still continue to hear about like all the time, and I still get recommended this book all the time. And so it's just kind of been like on my radar recently as like something I've been really wanting to check out. And something that I'm really liking about this is that, the premise is a little bit simplistic, right? It's like we have a group of teenagers. I've heard that this is a lot like The Breakfast Club, and I would definitely agree because we follow a group of teenagers that they kind of seem like, the typical like stereotype of characters, because we have this girl who's like the brain, we have this one who's the beauty, we have the criminal, the athlete, and the outcast, right? So like they do kind of fall into those stereotypes, but I also feel like this book is written in a way where they feel like they're a little bit more fleshed out than like just their stereotypes, which I am really enjoying because I was kind of afraid that it would be kind of cheesy because they're stereotyped in like a certain way, But so what's interesting is that all of these students had detention together, right? But then during this detention, one of the kids, Simon, he's the one who's kind of like the outcast, he literally drops dead and dies in the middle of the class, and they find out it's because somebody put like peanut oil. I'm so sorry, because somebody put like peanut oil in his drink or something, and he's like super allergic to peanuts. And so now the four of them are all suspects, like the other students who were in detention with him, because Simon had planned like the next day to start leaking all of this information about the four students. And it's really interesting because Simon had all of this dirt on them, like he has gossip about each of them, and it's not like the most like dramatic things in the world, but it's definitely stuff that could, get them in trouble in their lives. It's like cheating in school and like relationship kind of things, like, different things like that. But it's interesting because they all would have had motive to kill him, so that they know it had to be one of the four of them that killed him. And so it's interesting because there's motive for all of them to have done it. So we're just trying to figure out like who done it, It's kind of like the classic who done it story, but it's interesting because it feels like an Agatha Christie kind of vibe, but with young students, so it makes it feel like The Breakfast Club because of the way their characters are. I don't know, I'm about 140 pages in. I've just really started on it, and I am liking it a lot. I'm also like, listening to this one on audio. I was able to get the audiobook from my library, and I like listening to it on audio because I thought it might get a little confusing trying to read from the perspective of like four different characters just with the audiobook, but I feel like their characters are different enough that it's actually not too hard for me to be able to tell them apart, which is nice. And I don't know, I feel like, with young adult thrillers, I get so nervous going into them because I think they're gonna read like super young and just kind of cringy. But the only other young adult thriller that I really, really enjoyed was A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and like that one really surprised me, and that one remains as like one of my favorite young adult thrillers that I've ever read. And so far this one is going well. Like so far I am really impressed with it, and I'm having a good time with it. I need to finish editing a video real quick, and then I do want to maybe try and curl my hair tonight. I just washed it a little bit earlier, so me and my sister were at the gym for like over an hour this afternoon, and then we got taco truck. It's just been a really, busy afternoon, but I'm just gonna continue listening to this on audio, and I will update you with thoughts when I have them.
Small city thinking, I get why you left. Small-minded people sure know how to drink. I came to the party, I laughed at the jokes she made. I wish that I hadn't, 'cause now the joke's on me. I didn't come here just so I could watch you make a mess.
Hello, it is the next afternoon, and I have still been listening to One of Us is Lying. I'm about 80% of the way through the audiobook right now. This morning I was able to, curl my hair. My sister even helped me with my makeup because I'm trying to learn how to do like top eyeliner on myself, and so my sister was able to help me with that, which was nice. I'm off to visit a friend right now, so I have about like an hour and a half drive. I'm hoping that that'll give me enough time to finish this audiobook because I only have about 2 hours left, but I'm listening to it on like 2.5 times speed. And so so far, I don't know, this audiobook is still going well. I think I'm getting a little bit annoyed by some of the, young adult romance that is happening a little bit, but I'm still intrigued enough to continue, going with it. And there's definitely some characters that I'm more interested in than others. Like, for example, I'm really intrigued by Cooper's storyline in particular. Like, he's definitely the character that intrigues me the most in this book, or at least his storyline. I also thought, like, I don't know why, for some reason, I thought that it might be more of a situation where, like, these teenagers teenagers are gonna get picked off like one by some kind of mysterious killer, but it's really not like that. It's more like there was just this one incident at the beginning of the book where that student died, and then the rest of the book we're just trying to figure out who could have been the killer, and like we're trying to figure out the fact that they all had motives to do it, and you're kind of learning what those motives are. I don't know, there's not a lot of like action happening. Like it was only that first scene in the beginning when that student died, and then ever since then it's just kind of been like more mysterious. And so I'm definitely curious to see where this one goes. I'm kind of hoping it doesn't end on a cliffhanger, because I do think this might be the first book in a series. I don't know, I'm hoping that it reads like good for a standalone book, you know, like I'm hoping I don't need to read more in order to like get to the plot twist. So anyways, yeah, I have about an hour and a half drive. I'm just gonna continue listening to this, and it's actually really nice out today in Washington. I don't know, it's kind of like rainy and gloomy, and so it's just kind of like the perfect weather day for me. You know, like I really love this weather. We just had really great drinks. How's it going? I am back home from a weekend spending time with my friend Brittany. It was so much fun. We went to this bar and we went to this restaurant, and they were both super fancy. We had some drinks, we had a really nice dinner, and we just got a chance to hang out for a bit, which was also really fun. But I wanted to update you because on the drive on the way down there, I actually finished listening to One of Us Is Lying. And this one, I don't know, I feel a little bit underwhelmed by this one at the end of the day. Like, do I think this is better than the typical young adult thriller that I've read before? Like, yes, I do think this book is better than the average young adult thriller, but I still don't think that this book would be like a top tier thriller for me overall. I think I just feel a little bit underwhelmed by it because it's like I even finished this book yesterday afternoon, and even right now I'm kind of like struggling to remember what exactly happened at the end because I was just losing interest very quickly, and I feel like there was some parts of this book that just read super young to me, and I like just didn't especially care about like the romances and like certain things that were happening in the plot. I think that this would actually be the perfect book recommendation for someone who enjoys the show 13 Reasons Why on Netflix. Like, I don't know why, it definitely reminded me a lot of that TV show. It kind of felt like 13 Reasons Why meets The Breakfast Club, but for like a modern day age. But I still had a decent time reading this. I feel like I'm probably gonna give this around 3 stars because I did really enjoy, you know, the 4 characters that we're following. I like these kind of stories where we have a reason to suspect every single character, and so it makes it more interesting to see like who's gonna end up being the reason why all of this is happening. Like, I don't know, I thought it was enjoyable enough. I just think at the end of the day that this one ended up being a little bit forgettable and just a little bit underwhelming for me by the end. And so it's probably gonna be a 3 star. It's not like bad, it's just not my favorite. And I think I just got the audiobook checked out for The Only Survivors by Megan Miranda, and so I think this one is gonna be the next one that I begin. I know I do get a lot of questions anytime I do videos like this. People always ask me like how I get the audiobooks, or like people are wondering if I'm paying full price for like the book and the audiobook, and the answer to that would be your library. My library is absolutely amazing. There's an app called Libby. If you didn't know, download this app called Libby. It's Libby. Actually such a game changer. It's really cool because my library, I don't know if this is the case for every library, but they sometimes will allow you to put books on hold that are not even out yet, like the audiobooks. Like if you search for certain book titles that aren't even available yet, sometimes my library, they'll have it on the catalog and it'll say coming soon, and you can click and put it on hold before the book is even available. And that's usually how I'm able to get audiobooks that are like brand new books from my library almost right away. So like, hot tip, check it out, try it out. If your library has some kind of like online website system, try to get online and see if you can put books on hold yet that aren't even out yet, because that is usually how I'm able to get the audiobooks almost right away. Usually I'm only spending money on one or the other, but the library is a game changer and it can save you so much money on audiobooks. So I highly recommend using your library for audiobooks. And also, if you do end up using Libro, like Libro is is another app that I would highly recommend using, and I would highly recommend using Libro, because Libro is like an audiobook app that's kind of comparable to Audible, but instead of, you know, paying Amazon, you're supporting local independent bookstores, which I think is so fantastic. And I do have a link down below. I have a referral code link thing for Libro, so if you use my code, you can get 2 audiobooks for the price of 1. So just a heads up that that's also a thing that you could do to, you know, save some money on audiobooks. So I'll have that code linked down below if you want to check that out. But yeah, I'm really excited to get into The Only Survivors. I have, you know, some moderate expectations going into this. I mean, I don't think I've enjoyed a book by Megan Miranda yet. I'm pretty sure I've only read 1 book from this author, but this is, you know, her latest. This one just looks like it could be really interesting. I'm also just kind of obsessed with this cover, and this was a book of the month, you know, pick for the month of April. So I'm just kind of excited to read it. You know, I've had it staring at me on my shelves for a couple weeks now.
Finally, when we were almost to the edge of the beach, near a large outcrop, there was a moment, far out, when I lost sight from two.
Okay, hello friends. It's been about 24 hours since the last time that I updated this vlog. Yesterday we were celebrating my mom's birthday, so I didn't really get a chance to read a lot yesterday, but I did want to update that I am now 26% of the way through The Only Survivors audiobook, and so far, I don't know, I'm feeling like this one is a little bit okay so far. To be honest, I kind of jumped into this one without really knowing anything about the premise, and the premise is kind of odd to me that these people are gathering, you know, because like the whole thing is that they were in this accident like years ago. I think it's like 10 years ago now, and they were in this really bad accident where there were a lot of people that got killed, and the survivors, I think there was like 9 survivors, they decided to gather once a year to like reminisce and like be there for each other for support, which I think is a little bit strange, to be honest, because it's like, isn't it bringing up trauma like every single year? Like, I don't know. So the premise is kind of strange, but now this is like, I think it's the 10th year anniversary where they're reuniting again, but now it's only 7 of them because 2 more of them have like killed themselves recently, or like 2 of them have died recently, and so now they're gathering again, and it's only 7 people this time. And this book is also doing a thing where it's like jumping back and forth between 2 timelines. Like there's a present day timeline, and then there's a past timeline from like when the accident actually happened, I'm pretty sure. And so far, I don't know, it's okay. It's kind of boring. Like even just the first 25%, like I'm just not really invested, like couldn't really care less what happens. So like I don't know if this is gonna end up being a DNF for me. Right now, I'm literally at the hair salon. I'm about to dye my hair red. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited, so nervous, and I will see you after this appointment. I don't know if I'm gonna get the opportunity to listen to this one a little bit while I'm at this appointment, because I don't know how long this is gonna take to dye my hair, so we'll have to see.
Tell me what I gotta do.
Hello, how's it going? It's much later in the night and my hair is red, if you couldn't tell. Oh my god, it's so vibrant, you know? Like this is definitely going to be an adjustment for me, but I am really enjoying it. You know, kind of at first when it happened, I was like, oh my gosh, who the fuck is that, you know? It's been a little bit of an adjustment to get used to this color all day, but the more that I'm like getting into it and getting used to it, the more that I'm liking it. But I'm here with a kind of like reading update because I have DNF'd 3 books today. Like, am I okay? Because earlier today I tried getting into Slewfoot, you know, which this was kind of one that I was nervous to read anyways, because this is kind of a like, you know, fantasy type of story, and it's definitely something that's a lot out of my comfort zone. But this is one that I ended up picking for my Patreon prompt jar thing that I did this month. It was to read a book that's loved by another booktuber, and so this one was so highly loved on booktube last year that I decided I would give this one a go, even though I had a feeling it might not be for me, because, you know, there's a lot of talk in this book. It's like it's a fantasy book, you know, and there's a lot of talk about like witch things and like the devil, and like, I don't know, it like so much of it just went over my head. I was immediately just so bored, and I'm like, why am I like this? I got about 20% of the way into this audiobook just today, and then I was like, no, I don't think I'm intrigued, like I just can't do it. And then I also decided to DNF The Only Survivors by Megan Miranda, and this is one that I got a pretty decent way into as well. I got 35% of the way into this one on audio, and I just decided to DNF because I was 35% of the way into the book, and I was so bored out of my mind. Like I could not even tell you a single character apart from each other. Like they all read exactly the same to me, and I don't know, I just feel like Megan Miranda, her thriller writing just doesn't really work for me. Like I've just noticed, you know, because this is the second Megan Miranda book that I've really tried to read. I feel like I've almost tried most of her books, but I almost DNF them right away because I just don't really click with her writing style. And the only book that I have finished from her was that like Such a Quiet Place, I think it was called, and that one was a huge bummer to me. I think that one was like a 2-star. And so this one, it's like I'm only 35% in, but it's not going very well so far. And the thing that's super discouraging to me too is that all of my friends that have read this book, you know, a lot of them are rating it pretty low. Like people that I trust their opinions on are rating this one pretty low. And then they're also saying that the beginning started off strong, but then it got really boring. And I'm like, I'm only 35% in and I'm already bored out of my mind. So like, please don't tell me it gets more boring. And so I've just decided for my sanity and so that I don't get into a reading slump, I'm gonna have to DNF this one, which is kind of a bummer, you know, because I was looking forward to it, mostly because this cover is absolutely stunning. And yes, I'm not shallow. And then right now, I just decided to DNF Icebreaker, which this is a romance book that I've been pretty excited about because the girl is like a figure skater and then he's a hockey player, and this is like a cute little like college kind of romance. And I was just listening to this audiobook tonight after I got home, after dinner, after I decided to DNF the other books that I've already DNF'd. I decided to listen to this one while I was getting some stuff done on my laptop. You know, I was making some thumbnails and just like getting some work done on my laptop. And then I decided to DNF this one after 20% of the way into this audiobook as well, because oh my gosh, right from the beginning, I'm just like, these characters are so fucking obnoxious, and it's almost like it feels very like insta love, or just like the writing style just really doesn't work for me. Like it reminds me of some of the romances that I read back in like I don't know, like 2017, like back when I used to read like a lot of romance. It just has that like, I don't know how to say this without sounding like a douche, but it kind of reads like Wattpad or like fanfiction or something, even though I know like that's not a diss to Wattpad or fanfiction, because there's some really good fanfiction and Wattpad stories out there, but it just has that like feel to it where like this is an author's debut. I don't even know if this is the author's debut or not. I am not totally sure. And I don't know, maybe this is just something like, maybe it's like a total me thing right now and I am just not in the mood for something like this the way that I thought that I was. Maybe I'm getting into a reading slump. Like I don't really know what the heck is going on right now, but I've just DNF'd 3 books in a row. Like things are not going well for me. So I think for now I'm gonna take a quick little break from reading so that I can like, I don't know, figure out what I'm in the mood for and try to figure out what I want to read next, because clearly I've just not been picking up the right books for me lately, which is fine, you know, it happens. I just don't want to get into a reading slump because of this. So with that being said, I do think that I'm going to be wrapping up this vlog here. It is unfortunate that I didn't find any new favorites in this vlog. I mean, I think my favorite thing for sure that I read during this vlog was romantic comedy, because that was a really cute rom-com, and even though I did have my like little nitpicky issues with it, I still remember it as being like, you know, something that I really enjoyed. But hopefully I have more luck with my next reading vlog. So thank you so much for watching. If you've read any of the books that I read during this reading vlog, you'll have to let me know what did you think of them, and I will see you very soon with another video. Bye!